while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire. Yeah. With crimson secrets and forbidden bliss, can't stay still, don't stop that thrill. My bones crave your skin, temptation within, mistakes ignite the silence. Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire. Yeah.
forget all the things you've been taught, you've been told. Don't blink, don't run, don't turn left or turn right or look straight at the sun. My mind's going in circles, I'm trying to fight it. Getting these voices inside to stay quiet. Going to the place where all this began. Just start again. Oh, you won't see the light until the dawn breaks. No, till it's all said and done, you won't know what it takes. Gotta make a wrong turn and turn around. Gotta focus to pick yourself up off the ground. Until you get lost, you'll never be found. And you can't start again until you break down. Break down. Until you break down. They say, be me. Look beneath the bed before you go to sleep. Keep on, I shine. You'll surely get burned if you reach out and touch. My mind is a battle, I'm trying to hide it. Getting these voices inside to stay quiet. Going to the place where all this began. Just start again. Won't see the light until the dawn breaks. No, till it's all said and done, you won't know what it takes. Gotta make a wrong turn and turn around. Gotta focus to pick yourself up off the ground. Until you get lost, you'll never be found. And you can't start again until you break down. Break.
Hello and good evening and welcome to another PWA Sabado Sessions. I'll be your host for tonight, Andesito de Guzman, the community lead for PWA Pilipinas. But of course, before we begin, as I've told you before that our PWA Pilipinas app will be launching tonight. So we will start the talk of Seiji later at 7:20 or 7:30, but let's have a quick demonstration first of our launched app. So could okay. There. Okay. So let's say I have it installed from the Play Store, so or have it accessed using app.pwapilipinas.com. I could you could now log in. So if you tried accessing it before, you cannot open it. So now you can. So let's try registering for an account. Okay. So what should I choose? Choose this one. Okay. Anyway, I'll just try with an account already since we're having some problems with their internet. So there you go. So as you can see, we have here our um, app. So you can see our feed. Let's say we'll read the updates here. So we are going to update these regularly. So make sure to check us or check the app oftenly. Also, we have events. Okay, so we have events as well, so you can check out our events and events from our partner um, communities. So as of the moment, it's only our events that are here, but we'll update them along. There you go. So for example, we have our tonight's event here. So there you could register if you'd like to. It would show you the form. There you go. So everything's in here already. So aside from that, our videos would be here as well. So we have our watch tab. So you can watch videos on demand. So let's say you want to watch our State of Progressive Web Apps meetup from from February. So you can select any video there and watch one. There you go. Also, okay, our PWA sessions would also be there. So for example, you missed this one, you can just open our app and watch from there. Okay, so also we have docs. So you can see blog posts, um, references that our core team had compiled. So example, Maclem here created resources for progressive web apps. So um, though we were able to put the contents yet, but it'll be there soon. There you go. And also we have here some tools or some links that would be accessible for you. Like let's say you can report a community violation. So there you go. And another cool feature of this is you can search. So let's search for service workers. Service worker. Oops, there you go. Service worker. There. So you can search for APIs and more here soon. So there you go. So you just need to go to the app and just search for the things you need. So yeah. In the upcoming months. Hello, Michael Lance. Please open your mic. We will be adding more features along the way. So just keep it installed on your device and visit it regularly because we have many in store for you. Ayun. So, hi Michael Lance. Your mic is off. Naka-off yung mic mo.
Hello guys, isang magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Ang mga nakikinig ng PWA Pilipinas. Hello.
Ayun. So, kamusta ka naman?
Mukhang maganda yata ang topic natin ngayon na Andre ah.
Di ba kakakita mo lang, ano ba tawag dito? Kakapakita lang natin ng app natin, di ba? Maganda ba?
Oo naman. Kaya ako sa inyo guys, mag-download na kayo tong app na ito pang maging updated kayo sa PWA. Oo, di ba?
Pero, itong app na to, ginawa siya sa i-discuss ng speaker natin ngayong gabi. So, gawa siya sa Angular, oo.
Aba, ang galing
Oo.
nun ah. Paano kaya na ano yun? Ano kaya niya na-develop yun, no Andre?
Ayun nga, naka-ano siya, Angular. So, if gusto nilang matuto kung paano gumawa ng progressive web app gamit yung Angular, ayan, matututo sila ngayong gabi.
Kaya ako sa inyo guys, kung gusto nyo matuto, tutok lang guys. Tutok lang. tutok para matuto. Ayan.
Oo.
Yun lang gagawin nyo guys ha. Guys, mag-comment kayo, no? Saan tayo live ngayon, Andre?
Live tayo sa Facebook, Twitter, sa YouTube. Ayan.
Ayan,
Tapos,
Kaya guys, mag-comment kayo guys para mabati namin kayo.
oo naman. So, ano muna no, di pa ako nag-i-introduce ng ating program. So, introduce ko muna. So, ayun, Again, welcome sa ating Progressive Web App Sabado Sessions. Once again, I'm Andy Cito de Guzman of PWA Pilipinas along with Michael Lance. So about muna. So PWA Pilipinas is the community organization for progressive web app enthusiasts, designers, and developers in the Philippines. Our mission is to introduce and nurture progressive web apps development and adoption in the Philippines and beyond by fostering a community for subject matter experts, enthusiasts, adopters, and developers of the platform, and by providing resources and engagement to stimulate interest in progressive web apps. Because our vision is that progressive web apps would be adopted in the Philippines to provide a better user experience. But what is progressive web app? So basically, it's your typical web apps like Twitter, Facebook.com, but they have native apps functionality. So native app functionality means they could work offline, they could access your device hardware like accelerometer, etc. So PWAs in layman's term are web apps with progressive enhancements. So some of its key features include it could work offline, it's installable, it's engaging because it has push notifications, it's smaller than most native apps. You can share it through URLs and you can also search from the web because it's a web app. And some of the examples na meron tayo. First is the Click Shop by 7-Eleven Philippines. Fortunately, it's not working currently, but maybe after the pandemic or once everything gets to normal again, it will work. We also have I Want. So if you want to watch Kapamilya channel and more, you just go to beta.iwant.ph and you can watch from there without having to install anything first. And also we have the PWA Pilipinas app, the one we showed earlier. Ayun. So our plans for August, so our events this August. So this month is our anniversary celebration. So we have different events in store for you. So we have Catch Up Sundays that happens every Sunday from 8 to 10 p.m. all Sundays of August. Ayun. So we also have next week, Saturday, we have Progressive Django by Javar Abrera, the CTO of Pivotal Peak Digital Solutions. That's going to happen next week at 7:30 p.m. So, yan. We also have our all-new PWA Pilipinas app. So, if ever na you want to watch other episodes of this catch-up Sundays and Sabado Sessions, nandiyan na lahat. Tapos, upcoming events as well are there. So, aside from there, meron pa tayong event tomorrow in as a part of Catch-Up Saturday. We have introduction to PWA or panimula sa progressive web app yun. It's our buwan ng wika celebration talk. Ayun. So, yung magsispeak doon is nandito ngayon. Ang makakasama natin tomorrow si Maclem. Ayun. Kausapin natin siya. Hello, Maclem.
Hello?
Hello. So, ayun. Di ba may talk ka bukas?
Oo.
Promote mo naman.
Ayun guys, tomorrow, inimbitan namin kayo na pumutok dito sa PWA Pilipinas para sa ating programa na panimula sa Progressive Web Apps. So, ito tamang-tama to sa mga hindi pa pamilyar o nakakaalam sa mga pagdating sa Progressive Web Apps. So, ayun, sana ay manood kayo bukas. Tama.
Ayun. Ayun. So, salamat Maclem. So, ayun. Meron din tayo pang isang app din na magiging available ng September. Yun yung Discover by PWA Pilipinas. So, para siyang app store pero for progressive web apps. Yan. So, invite din namin kayo sa Impact Hackathon. So, Michael Lance, pwede kayo mo bang i-promote?
Ayan. So, guys, kung gusto nyong sumali sa mga hackathon, nako, Andre, Lemon, daming hackathon ngayon, no?
Oo, ang dami.
Kaya, Kaya ako sa inyo guys, kung kayo ay may talento, no, upang ibigayan yung angking galing sa paggawa ng kung ano ng mga apps, sumali kayo dito sa mga hackathon na ito. Kagaya itong Impact Hackathon na ito, no, kung sana mukhang marami silang ginagawang solusyon, no, yung kumbaga ina-address nila yung mga iba't ibang mga problema kunyari sa agriculture, sa mga smart city. Yan, try nyo yan, no. Mag-uumpisa ang hackathon na ito sa hindi. Kinakailangan mag-register kayo ngayon hanggang sa ika-16, no? Naging English agad, no? August 16 ng 11 p.m. Ako sa inyo, tumali kayo dito sa Impact Hackathon.
Ayan. Meron pa tayong isa, no, Michael Lance, yung Mission to Mars.
Ay, naku guys, kung kayo ay marunong sa AWS, no? Ito isang cloud computing platform, no? Ako sa inyo, sumali kayo dito sa Mission to Mars. Ay, alam nyo, marami kayong pwedeng gamitin dito, mga machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, ano-ano pang mga pwede nyo gawin. Kaya ako sa inyo, sali na kayo dito sa AWS Mission to Mars.
Ayan. So, pakilala natin yung speaker natin yung gabi. Nandito na din yata siya. Ayun. So, ang speaker natin tonight is si Seiji Villafranca, Community Lead sa Angular PH and a Technical Lead at Frontier Software Asia Philippines. Isa rin siyang speaker at mentor sa SkyLabs at trainer din siya sa Rocksquad. So, hello Seiji.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Ayan,
Kamusta ka naman?
okay naman. First of all, thank you pala for inviting me dito sa event. Ayan, para ma-share namin yung topic at knowledge about Angular PWA. Ayan.
Ayan, love namin yan kasi yung ginamit namin sa app namin.
Okay, nagulat nga ako nung Angular pala yung ginamit niya. Ayos, ganda.
Ayan, so if ready ka na, pwede na lang mag-start. So,
Yeah, sure. So, I'll share my screen na, ano?
sige.
Yeah, so, okay na, no? We can all see the screen.
Yes.
Yeah. So, before we start, I'll introduce myself first for all the people watching. So, first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending PWA Pilipinas. So, sana ngayong event namin, marami kayong matutunan. So, once again, I'm Seiji Villafranca. So, if you want to follow all my tutorials, my content, blogs for developers, so it's under github.com cgv13. Then I also have a website, seijivillafranca.com. I write blogs there about JavaScript frameworks, how to use them, what are the standards. So yun, you can check it out there. So, yun, napakilala na ako ni Andre kanina. Currently, I'm the technical lead for Frontier Software Asia Philippines. Then, I'm also a trainer at Rock Squad Design and Development. Then, speaker and mentor at SkyLabs. Then, community lead in Angular PH. So, kung makikita nyo, it's my passion talaga to share my knowledge to developer communities, and as well as conducting talks and other events na makakatulong sa fellow developers natin. So, ayun. Ito yung mga past talks ko, siguro. Actually, some lang to. Madami-dami na rin. So, yun. Ang current hometown ko is Angular PH. So, yan. Madalas ako nagto-talk dyan. Then, I've also been to React.js. So, I've also been invited there. Then, in DevCon, Rock Squad, and SkyLabs. So, some of my mga events lang to. So, yun. Please join us also in Angular PH, no? So, parehas kayo sumali sa PWA Pilipinas and Angular PH. So, yun, maraming mga malulupit na developers dyan. So, pwede kayong magpa-mentor at the same time kung may mga questions kayo. Yan yung tamang community para sa inyo. So, okay. I think enough for me. Enough about me. So, let's start about our topic. So our topic for today is Angular PWA SWPush combined. So before we continue to PWA, siguro magdi-discuss lang ako about ng onti kay Angular. So actually yung SWPush part kasi is medyo advanced na to. So dapat meron tayong konting background kay Angular. So might as well isasali ko yung mga beginners dito, lalo na baka may mga beginner na viewers tayo. So I'll discuss something about Angular first before we proceed to our application na. So yun. Kung mapapansin nyo kasi dito sa application ko, dun sa topic ko rather, hindi naman siya ganun kahirap i-develop. So basta meron ka lang konting background kay Angular. So, okay. What we will learn today. So, si Angular, ito yung mga topics na matatakel ko. So, kasi masyadong malaking framework si Angular kung tutuusin. Hindi ko matatakel lahat. So, pag dinevelop natin yung sample application mamaya, ito lang yung mga possible na parts ni Angular framework na matatakel natin. So, we will learn about Angular CLI, framework dependencies. So, these are the files that Angular needs in order to run. So, components and modules. So, ito actually, pag naging Angular developer ka, ito yung parang basic structure niya, which is components and modules. Kasama dito yung services. Then, next is the file structure. So, si file structure, ituturo ko yung recommended. Actually, si Angular kasi is called a framework, it's considered MVW. What does MVW means? It means model view whatever. So ikaw bahala kung anong gusto mo. Pero itong ipapakita kong file structure, ito yung currently ginagamit sa mga industries, lalo na sa mga big companies. So we will also learn about routing, then component interaction, so how will components communicate, then directives. So we will tackle all the three types of directives under Angular, then services and dependency injection. So yeah, then ito, kaya that's why we are in PWA Pilipinas. So we will transfer our Angular app into a PWA. So how to configure Angular into a progressive web app at the same time using service worker for push notifications. So yung part ng topic ko, which is SWPush, kaya siya tinawag na SWPush kasi service worker push. So it will not work without the progressive web app. Then, yun, nabanggit ko dun sa topic. Actually, napag-isipan ko to. Kasi ang una talagang plano is Heroku. But, let's make it Google, full blast na Google. So, we will deploy our application in Firebase. So, ano to? Yung topic ko is not just about Angular and PWA. So, from hero to zero to, gagawa tayo ng sariling application. Then, i-deploy natin kay Firebase. So, accessible na siya in the internet. So, yun. De-deploy natin yung Angular PWA Firebase na gagawin natin mamaya. So, yeah. So, what the hell is Angular? So, yun. Kung sa industry ngayon kasi, marami ng lumalabas na framework. So, yung top frameworks natin ngayon is Angular, React, then Vue. So, actually, ako, hindi lang ako Angular developer. I'm also a React developer. And, I think sa akin, sa opinion ko is they have both advantages and disadvantages. Actually, I love both of them because yun, meron silang ino-offer na wide range of strengths. So, actually, in my opinion, it's your choice na lang kung ano yung gusto mong gamitin framework. So, ayun, yung mga iba pang lumalabas na framework like Svelte. But, yeah, matuto ka lang ng isang framework is parang pag naglumipat ka ng isang JavaScript, it's just at least you know the process or the way or the flow for the one framework. So mas madali mo na matututunan yung isang framework. So yeah. So going back to Angular. So ayun, sa mga developers ng single page application, alam niyo na kung si Angular, kung kahit React ka, so same lang yan. Same lang yung in-offer nila na it's for front-end development. So it's a single page application. So we will sa mga beginners, sa viewers na beginners, we will explain what is single page application. What's the difference between compared to MVC or other frameworks. Then it's TypeScript based. So we will code Angular using TypeScript. Yun yung kay Microsoft na language. So ito yung ginagamit. Then it's component based. Yeah. So Angular framework is component based. So it's Angular 2 above, not Angular JS. So it's not the same with Angular 1. Then the latest stable version for Angular framework now is Angular 10.0.9. Yan. So actually si Angular is sobrang bilis ng update. So minsan you will get stressed, kaka-update mo lang, so meron na naman bago, then you need to update that. But my suggestion for that is wait for the latest stable before you update. So at least it has a good side din naman if you're updating to the latest stable, because for their support in the framework, especially kapag hindi tayo nag-update kasi sa latest, Google might deprecate other features, so na hindi na rin supported sa kanila. So yun, ito yung maraming nagkakamali dito. So yung sinasabi nila na AngularJS is the same with Angular, so it's not. It's totally different. So nagkaroon kasi ng great rewrite around 2014 to 2015, I'm not sure. So si AngularJS kasi is more of controller scopes na concept. So and honestly, mas mahirap siya kay Angular in terms of maintenance, in debugging. So it's really harder. It's more difficult. So happier work kay Angular. So actually I've experienced both. So kung i-compare ko talaga, mas malaki yung improvement ni Angular compared to AngularJS. And actually kasi ngayon naman sa mga JavaScript frameworks like React and Vue.js, it's component based na talaga. Yun. So for beginners out there, how can we start developing Angular? So simple lang. Ano ba yung mga prerequisites for Angular? So una, Node.js. So we need to install Node.js. Here's the link that I've provided. So it's nodejs.org. So I recommend that you install the current stable released version for Node.js. Then install Angular CLI. So in setting up Angular CLI, it's really difficult to install an Angular application from scratch. So thankfully, meron nang dinevelop na Angular CLI for us to scaffold all the packages, all the dependencies for an Angular application. So how to install that? So npm install -g at Angular CLI. So before you execute this command, you should install first Node.js because of the Node package manager. So after installing Node.js, you can now execute the command npm install, because yun, magagawa siya ng environment variables under your machine. So it's npm, then you can install now the Angular CLI. So are you good to go? Paano nyo ma-check kung nag-install nga ba properly yung Node.js Angular CLI? So simple lang. So in our command, so pwede nyo i-command na npm-v. So pag in-command nyo yung npm-v, may makikita ko yung version which is 6.14.2 or ano yung latest na in-install nyo. So kung Angular naman, ng-version. So it will try to pull all the information of your Angular version. So like Angular core, Angular CLI, so something like that. And so medyo matagal siya mag-pull ng mga details. So before while we are waiting for the details, ayan. So kapag may lumabas na mga information na gano'n, so we're ready na to develop and to scaffold our project using our Angular CLI. So, how to scaffold your project, your Angular project? So, simple lang, ng new. So, ang magiging pinaka-command natin lagi dito to scaffold some components, modules in Angular is ng. So, ng new project name. So, kapag nag-execute tayo ng command na yan, so makikita natin. Ayan, ito yung kanina. So, sa ng ---- version. So, makikita natin Angular CLI. So, currently hindi ako naka-10 ngayon. Naka-Angular 9 pa lang ako sa machine ko. So, soon I'll update to the latest version of Angular. So, yun. If we command the ng new, so for example, our project is PWA Angular demo. So, it will create the project itself. So, wala na kayong kailangan gawin. So, ang makikita nyo after dyan is may mga questions siya na if you will have a routing for your Angular app. So, technically, usually naman talaga, yes. Then, what templating for CSS we will use, like SCSS, CSS, less. So, yun yung dalawang questions na itatanong niya. Then, it will automatically create the Angular application. So, ang makikita natin is itong structure. So, we will discuss this later if we were going to create the app. So, balik tayo. So, yun. That's it. I'm a web developer for Angular. So, naka-create na tayo ng Angular app. But, yeah. So, that doesn't just stop there. So, what are now we will discuss the basic concepts of Angular. So, before we start creating the PWA, converting our Angular app into a progressive web app, syempre, kailangan matutunan muna natin paano mag-develop ng Angular ng isang front-end na application using our Angular framework. So, actually, itong tatlong parts na ni Angular is ito yung parang kino-consider ko na basic structures ni Angular. So, nakakalito mostly sa mga developers, ito yung nakakalito na part. How to import them, how to use them from one module to another. So, si module, simply, it's a collection of components, services, directives, and also modules. So, pwede ka mag-import ng pwede kang declare ng components, services, directives. At the same time, pwede ka rin mag-import ng modules sa isang module. So, ayan, si module can be imported into multiple modules. So, makikita natin yung, medyo magulo siya ngayon, pero in a while, sa demo app, mapapakita ko kung ano yung ibig sabihin nito. So, next is the component. So, a component is a piece of code that defines the view with custom behaviors. So, technically, this is the view for our Angular application. So, a component holds all the HTML templates. At the same time, it also has a CSS template. So, it cannot be imported into multiple modules. So, if we attempt to import a component into multiple modules, makikita natin yun sa console na it will have an error that a component cannot be present in two modules. So, kailangan isa lang. So, ayun, para maisip natin kung ano ba talaga si component, isipin natin to na one customized HTML element na may customized event, may customized attributes, tsaka at the same time, may customized events na tayo yung gumagawa. So, kaya siya component-based, si Angular. So, ito yung advantage niya. So, same with other frameworks like React. Reusable ang isang component from another component to another. So, next is services. So, ang services is ito yung usually ito yung talagang ginagamit for communication with endpoints. Pwede rin for logic purposes. Then, ginagamit siya from one component to another by dependency injection. So, makikita natin mamaya kung paano sa demo app natin how services are being injected and being used by several components. So, yun. How to determine which is the module, which is the component, and which are the services. So, simple lang. Gumagamit si Angular ng decorators. So, pag nag-develop tayo ng Angular app, madalas tayo makakita ng mga decorators na yan. So, sa module, ang decorator niya is ng module. Then, yung mga nasa loob niya, we call this metadatas. So, ito yung mga parang configuration niya dun sa decorators. So, makita natin, meron tayong declarations, the array of declarations, which is components and directives. So, sa imports naman is, yun, as I have said earlier, we can also import modules into a module. Then, sa providers, we provide services. So, makikita natin yan mamaya. Then, for components, ang simple, it's the decorator is at component. Then, it also has a metadata. So, the selector is the name of the component. So, kapag ginamit natin siya as an HTML tag, so ito yung gagamitin natin. So, less than app-root. So, ganun. Then, template URL, this one, it's the link, it is the path for the HTML file. So, ito yung view natin mismo. Then, the styles, this is the path for the CSS file. So, dito, marami pa to. Hindi lang tong tatlo yung metadatas niya. Same with module. So, marami pa silang configuration. So, sa template URL, pwede ring templates lang. So ang mangyayari dyan is, hindi path yung nakalagay sa kanya, but the code of the HTML itself. Then, same with style URLs. Pwede lang din siyang styles. So, ang nakalagay dyan is the code of the CSS itself. So, ang disadvantage lang nun, kung sobrang haba ng HTML code mo, nakabake lahat ng code ng HTML code mo and CSS mo dito sa metadatas, which is not a good way or not a good idea because if lumaki na lumaki, magiging madumi yung code natin. So, services. So, how to determine if one class is a service? So, it's injectable. So, meron din siya metadata. So, actually, ito yung pinaka-basic na ginagamit, provided in root. So, meaning ng provided in root is pinrovide niya yung service sa app.module, meaning singleton yung services. So, sa buong Angular framework, sa buong Angular app mo, isa lang yung instance ng service mo. So, if you didn't provide the provided in root, it will have different instances from different modules. So, kapag pinrovide mo siya dito sa part na to, sa providers, so, yun yung isang instance niya. There. So, yun. Let's proceed of how to create or scaffold our components, modules, and services. So, for module, so how to generate. So, we will use the command ng-generate module, then the module name. Or for shortcut, syempre, tayong developers minsan tamad. So, we have a shortcut, ng-gm. So, ng stands for generate, then m stands for module. Then, for component, ng-generate component. So, we also have a shortcut for that one. So, ng-gc. So, ng-generate component name. Then, for service, ng-generate service or ng-gs. So, these are just the basic concepts for Angular. So, actually, meron din tayong directives. Pwede rin tayo mag-generate like ng-generate directive. So, that's maraming ino-offer si Angular. So, ang pinakita ko dito is yung 3 basic concepts lang. So, yeah. So, let's discuss the flow of a single page application. Actually, ito hindi lang to nag-a-apply kay Angular. Same with React and other single page application frameworks. So, ano nga ba yung advantage ni single page applications compared to other non-single page application frameworks? So, kaya siya tinawag na single page application. Kahit if you get the idea na yung front-end code natin na binabato ni client server is nasa client side na agad. Meaning nasa browser na siya. So, if we get a data from a back-end server, we don't need to return all the resources like the views again from the back-end server. So, usually ang binabalik na lang ni server is the data itself. So, if we can see the flow here, so this diagram, it shows at tier 2. So, actually, tier 3 kung may sariling server si database. So, yung client server, siya yung nag-host ng Angular application natin. So, ibabalik niya yung modules. So, modules ng Angular application, which contains components, services, directives, and other components from Angular. So, possible na maraming modules siya. So, kung naka-lazy load tayo, isa-isa niya ibabalik yung modules. So, yun, binalik niya yung modules, then it will render the view. So, ang view consists of the components which has the HTML template. So, if a component requests something from the backend server, so it will use a service. It will use a service, or it will call a service through HTTP request. So once it calls the HTTP request, it will fetch the data. So with help of RxJS or observables. So the backend server will retrieve something. So the backend code here will retrieve data from the database. Then it will send the data back to the view. So ang makikita natin dito is hindi na magre-refresh usually yung page natin. Kasi yun nga, single page application. Lahat na ng resources, assets, yung mga templates natin ng view, HTML is nasa browser na. So ang pinaka-advantage nun is ma-reduce natin yung loading time kasi hindi na natin ni-retrieve yung mga data, hindi na natin ni-retrieve rather yung mga front-end resources dun sa server. So data na lang yung i-refresh natin. So that's the main advantage of single page applications. So yeah, let's deep dive in one of the basic structures, which is components. So sa components, pag nag-develop tayo in a while, may makikita tayo ng mga ini-implement na interface, which is yung component lifecycle hooks. So ang component kasi ni Angular, kapag ni-render siya sa browser, so may niraran siyang lifecycle hooks. So ano ba tong lifecycle hooks? So for example, tayo, bago natin i-load yung component, kailangan muna natin kumuha ng data sa server, or dun sa kailangan natin tumawag ng request from backend. So lifecycle hooks will help us to call that request. So yung pattern nito is ito yung pinaka parang complete na lifecycle hooks ni Angular. So constructor, then dito natin ini-inject yung mga dependencies. So ng on changes, checks this is the one who is checking whether if the variables has changed, if the values of the variables have changed inside the Angular component. So siya yung siya yung responsible doon. So on init, so before the HTML templates or the DOM for the components have loaded, so yan, i-check ulit na yan sa do check. So after content init and after content check, so parang ito yung phase na nag-initialize na yung DOM, yung elements under kay Angular. Then after content check, so ito yung na-check niya na yung mga values nung data nung naka-render doon kay Angular app. Then after view init or after view initialization is na-render na lahat. Then after view check, so another checking for parang ito yung pinaka-last checking dun sa values ni Angular application. Then si on destroy is kapag sa component kasi, kapag nag-reroute tayo paalis dun sa component na yun, so tatawagin niya tong lifecycle hook na to. So ayun, mas makikita natin ito mamaya sa application. Pero usually ang nagagamit lang dito kay Angular app is on init, after view init, then on destroy. So si on changes yun, minsan nagagamit niya siya for checking purposes if there are changes. Pero based on my experience, the most commonly used lifecycle hooks are on init, after view init, and on destroy. So ito yung mostly na matatackle natin mamaya. So yeah, next is metadatas. Ayun. So na-explain ko na kanina to. So in order to create a component, we have the metadata. So technically, this is the configuration for the component. So selectors, this is the tag name for the component. So if we use a component to be rendered in another component, so we will use its selectors. Then next is the template URL. So this is the path for the HTML file. So we can also use template metadata. So we can place the HTML codes here directly in the metadata of the component. Then the styles URL. So it can also be styles to write the code directly here in the metadata. So yeah, next is the component rendering. So we use the selector to use the components from one component to another. So for example, in this diagram, so ang itong box is isipin natin is page. Sa Angular kasi, ang isang page is considered as also a component. So ito yung isang page natin na nakikita natin sa browser. So component with route siya. So under that page, meron din siya mga components. So app component 1, then app component 2, then app component 3. So ganun natin ginagamit si component from different or several components. So simple as that. So ganun natin siya nire-reuse. So makikita natin sa view. So ayun, makikita natin siya as one page. Pero yung mga nakikita nating elements dun sa page is considered components. So yeah, we have mentioned that Angular is component-based. So hiwa-hiwala yung code natin dito. So the main question here is, how does components communicate with each other? So for example, so nakita niyo yung diagram dito. So yung parent component natin is this red box. So it has the data. Then it needs to send the chocolates to the child component, which is this blue box. So paano niya ginagawa yun? So sabi ko kanina, marami tayong matatakel na decorators. So meron na naman tayong gagamitin dito. So yun, sa child component, makikita natin sa diagram. So child needs some data. So we need, in order for us to achieve that, we can use the @input and output property. So ang concept kasi nitong @input and @output, parang gumagawa tayo ng custom attributes, which is the @input, then output, which is the events. So this is the custom event binding for Angular. So discuss muna natin si @input. So @input decorators, ito yung nag-a-allow kay parent. Ito yung nag-a-allow to a child component to receive data from a parent component. So yan, @input decorator, parent component. So kung makikita natin, ganito siya. This is not a complete code. So paano natin lalagay siya sa child component? So @input, so chocolates, then the type number. Then if the parent component wants to submit or to send rather the chocolates to the child component, so ibabind natin siya. So magkakaroon siya ng binding na chocolates. It's like a customized attribute for the child component. Then it will bind the data that being passed by the parent component. So we will discuss this further later. So next is the output decorator. So this allows the child to pass the parent. The output, so ito yung event binding. So ito yung parang custom. So pabaliktad naman tayo. So yung child component, siya naman yung magpapasa ng data from parent. So dito sa part na to, actually mali itong nandito. So dapat, ang gagawin ng child component dito is, it will pass the total number of chocolates to the parent component. So ganito yung parang snippet niya ng code. So magdadagdag tayo ng output decorator, then emit chocolates, then it is a type of a new event emitter. So ang para magamit natin yan, this that emit chocolates that emit. So it's like this one. So, para magamit natin tong output, so we will place emit chocolates, then new event emitter. So, meron siyang function na that init. Then, for example, this is the chocolate. So, ayan, ayun yung mag-send ng data pabalik na sa parent. So, next, mamaya, iaano natin yan. Itatakil pa natin yan later. So, ayan lang yung parang snippet. So, para ma-receive ni parent, ayun, so meron siyang parenthesis. So, parang makikita natin, di ba? Parang ano lang siya, custom event binding lang. So, ito yung emit chocolates, which is this one. Then, it will call a function once na mag-emit siya ng value. So, next. Ayun. Actually, that's the basic way of component interaction. So, but there are other ways for components to communicate. So, what are the other components to communicate? So, there services. So, it can also be used for components to communicate with each other. Then subjects. So this is another topic. So there are different types of subjects. One is replay, then behavior subjects. But in this part, I will not really tackle that one. Then the next one is the state management. So if you're familiar with state management, if you're also an Angular developer, so the three common libraries for Angular is NGXS, NGRX, Akita. Yeah, but it's I will not also tackle this because this is another big topic for Angular. There. So now let's move on routing. We will now tackle how to configure routes in Angular application. So what are routes in Angular? So it is also a module. So kung makita natin sa code is like this one. So router module. Then we can configure routes in a form of JSON. So makita natin array siya with a type routes under Angular router. Then we will place all the paths that is needed by the Angular app inside the array. So for example, we have a path home. So ilalagay lang natin siya dun sa array routes. So sabi nga natin, single page application si Angular. So how does really routing works here? So sa ibang frameworks like Java or sa iba pang mga MVCs, routing, when we switch from one route to another, nire-render niya yung buong page in a way na i-retrieve niya yung web, yung HTML files, yung resources, yung page mismo, yung view, at the same time, yung may mga data na. So, in Angular app, it's different. So, ang kay Angular is same with other single page frameworks. Hindi niya talaga nire-retrieve, as I have mentioned earlier, hindi niya talaga nire-retrieve yung resources ng HTML files, yung mga components, web components sa backend server. So, ang ginagawa lang technically ni routing, kapag nag-transfer ka from one route to another, ang ginagawa niya dun sa component ng route na yun is nire-remove niya from DOM. So, simply, tinatago lang niya. Tinatanggal niya sa rendering. Pero kung titingnan niyo technically, nandun pa rin siya sa client side. So, nire-retrieve niya lang through JavaScript code. So, kung may para siyang directive na may ngIf. So, kapag nag-transfer ka from component 1 to component 2, tatago niya yung component 1 and yung mga components under that component. Then, it will render the component 2. So, that's how routing in Angular works. So, yun. Actually, simple as that. So, mamaya, di-discuss din natin later how to how to configure Angular, and maglalagay din tayo ng lazy loading. So sa directives, are it has three types. Directives in Angular has three types. So first is the components. So components itself is a directive. So it has a template. Simply difference is it has a template itself. So it's a directive. So then structural. So it changes the DOM layout. So yun, yung ngif, ng4, and ng-switch. So ito yung magkakaroon ka ng logic dun sa HTML template mo. For example, may mga looping tayo na needed. So, yung mga data na di-display, then may condition tayo kung ano yung mga i-render nating DOM. So, structural will help us achieve that. So, next is the attribute directives. So, ito yung nag-change ng behavior ng element. So, ng component or pwede another directive. So, actually, itong mga attribute directives is more custom-made directives. So, kasi ito yung based dun sa needs ng application natin. Yeah, for example, ng-generate directive. So, to generate a directive, so we need to ng-generate directive or pwedeng ng-gd, highlight, then, magagamit natin yung directive na yan by placing the name of the directive in the selector of the component. So, hindi ko masyado matatakel tong attribute directives sa demo natin mamaya. So, yun. Next topic is, ipapakita ko na rin. So, make your an Angular app a progressive web app. So, meron na tayo konting background sa Angular. So, pagsabay-sabay na natin. So, paano nga ba gawing progressive web app yung Angular app? So, sobrang hirap. So, the step is just executing the command ng add an Angular PWA. So, and basically, that's it. Your Angular app is now a progressive web app. Siya na bahala mag-scaffold lahat ng mga dependencies ni progressive web app to make your Angular progressive web app. So, yeah. So, siguro, pwede natin consider natin yung self natin pro. So, yun, meron na tayo Angular application, naka-scaffold na tayo. Then, meron na tayong PWA. So, by just simply executing all the commands. So, yeah, I think let's, enough for the talking. Let's now code our demo application. So, yeah. So, first, ang kailangan natin gawin, yeah. So, sorry guys, you can comment if hindi masyado malinaw yung code ko or anything. Lalo na to, we will proceed now for development. So, ang kailangan natin gawin is we will meron akong pinipare na web app. So we will try to imitate this. So this is actually a PWA app. So yan, PWA Pilipinas. So yan, try natin imitate. Ako actually may gawa nito. So yan, we will try this using Angular application with the standards. So yan, try natin i-recreate to. So, yan. Ito yung makikita nyo. So, kung actually pwede kong ibigay yung link nito, pwede nyo i-install sa mga devices nyo since it's a PWA, it's a progressive web app. So, yeah, let's start. So, first, gayahin natin. So, yeah, Andre, are you there? So, pasabi lang sa akin if medyo hindi malabo yung code or sa ano. Okay ba yung screen?
Sige.
Yeah.
Medyo enlarge mo ng konti.
Okay. Sige. So, hatiin ko na lang yung screen kasi para makita natin kung ano yung
Medyo okay na.
okay na. Laki na laki. And so, okay. So, first that we will need to tackle is yung na-scaffold nating project. So, actually, hindi na ako nag-scaffold dito kasi tatagal tayo. It will really take around 10 minutes to scaffold the whole project. So, basically, yan, kung naalala nyo, ito lang yung command, ng new PWA-Angular demo. So, sige, try lang natin para makita rin natin kung ano yung mga lalabas na oops, project na pala to. Yan. So for beginners, so if you want to create an Angular app, so let's try this one. Yan. So, bigla siya nag-no. Pero yun, would you like to add Angular routing? So you can type Y or N. Then, the style sheet format you would like to use. So, SCSS. So, yan. So, if you enter, so magpo-proceed lang yan. Then, it will now create the Angular application. So, huwag natin hintayin yan kasi sobrang tagal yan. Might as well, nag-scaffold na ako ng sarili ko. So, ito yung nabuo natin na app na project for Angular. So, makita natin what are the dependencies. So, for the existing, for the pros out there, for the experienced developers, so alam na natin to, yung mga package.json. So, ito yung actually one of the important files. So, package.json, ito yung mga dependencies or libraries na na-install ni Angular na need niya in order for the application to run. So, meron siyang animations na sarili, common, core, forms, then router itself, then RxJS, if you're familiar from Microsoft. So, huge library din yan. So, technically, gagamitin natin yan for SWPush since makikipag-communicate tayo sa backend. So, ito yung usual na ginagamit sa endpoint. Then dependencies, usually ang mga nakalagay lang dito is for unit test, like Karma, Jasmine, then yung CLI, then yung TS lint for the code formatting, then TypeScript, so yun yung kailangan natin, then also protractor if you're familiar with automation testing or E2E. So yun yung mga nasa dev dependencies. So technically, ito yung under sa node modules. Then, next is AngularJSON. So, AngularJSON is parang ito yung pinaka-main configuration ni Angular. So, dito lahat nanggagaling yung configuration if we build the project at the same time kung saan niya kinukuha yung mga assets, then styles and scripts. Pwede natin, mga native JavaScript files, pwede tayo mag-import dito. So, dito natin makikita yan. Yan, sa asset styles under the projects property. Then, so kanina, inano ko to, in-scaffold ko to by using template, SCSS template format. Then, if we build the project, so it will create a folder named this /PWA Angular demo. Then, the index is simply index HTML. So, technically, ito yung mga configuration natin. Then, if we also build the project, there are configurations ni file replacements. So, if we build the project, the environment TS will be replaced by the environment prod. So, si environment na file, ito yung ginagamit na configuration, parang global configuration for the Angular project. So, maganda dito natin ilalagay yung link for the backend and other needed configuration globally. So, parang ito lang yung environment variables. Simply that one. Then, next, let's try the polyfills. So, under source, makikita natin, ito yung mga sa source na folder, nandito na yung mga usual na files na ginagamit natin for development. So si polyfills, these are the imports that will be used for cross-browser compatibility. So dito yan technically ginagawa. So usually kasi may times na sinusupport pa natin si Internet Explorer. So may mga JavaScript functions na wala dito kay Angular. So magkakaroon kayo ng problema na hindi nyo mararan si Angular app. Yun, ito yung sagot dyan, polyfills. May mga kailangan kayong idagdag na functions like ES6 or marami yun. Hindi ko memorize pero yun yung usually use ni polyfills. Then si styles. So this styles at CSS, this is the global style for Angular app. So anything that you will place here. So parang simple web programming. So yun, mag-a-apply sa buong application. So paano nyo nalalaman na si styles.scss yung global SCSS file niya? So simply nandun siya sa Angular JSON, which is ito yan, source/styles.scss. Then next, assets, simply nandito yung resources natin like images or icons, whatever assets you need. Then test tool, sa test tool na talat. Then next is the app. So si app is one kind of this is a component. So makita natin gumawa na siya ng sariling component. So nag-yes ako kanina nung in-scaffold ko to, nag-yes ako sa if you want to have a routing. So we can see that it scaffolds a routing module under the app. I said yes because we need this one. So for lazy loading at the same time by rendering routes. So ito, makita natin na nag-scaffold na siya. So as I have mentioned earlier, routing is also a module in Angular. So router.module.forroute, then export. Exports meaning so we can use this module into another module. So kung makita natin sa app.module, naka-import si app routing module. So next, pakita natin. So this is, as I have said, the app is a component. So ang di-discuss ko dito is the app component.html, then the app component.ts. So let's disregard the .spec.ts because this file is just for unit test. So hindi muna natin itatakal yan. So makita natin yung code. So we know that app is a component because of this decorator. Then the selector, it's the app -root. Then the template URL it's using is the app component HTML. Then the style URL template it's using is the app.component SCSS. So ganun sila nagko-connect. So if we run our application, so saan natin makikita yung mga commands, how to run? So pwede dito sa scripts under package.json. So ng to run, ng serve or simply ngs. So pwede rin nag-provide si Angular ng mga scripts. So simply pwede nating tawagin yan. So how to call the script? So npm run the name of the script start. So ganun lang ang ito yung way na paano i-run si Angular application. So let's wait for the application to run. Ayan. So bago natin i-delete to, papakita ko muna yung default homepage ng Angular application natin. So actually kasi merong links na doon for PWA. So talagang solid na si Angular for P1 na parang sinasuggest na talaga nila na make your Angular a progressive web app. Kasi syempre at the same time para mas maging accessible yung application natin. So while we are waiting to run for our Angular application to run, so yun, pwede na tayo mag-proceed dun sa folder structure. So itong ipapakita kong folder structure actually, commonly ito yung ginagamit or widely used from different companies. Pero kasi depende rin kasi ito sa kung paano natin binibuild yung application. Yun nga, nabanggit ko, ang Angular is MVW, model view, whatever, so bahala ka. Pero, ayun, parang itong structure na to is, commonly ito talaga yung makikita mo kung paano nila hiniwa-hiwalay yung mga components, modules, especially ito for if your Angular application is lazy loaded. So, under app, ang standard kasi natin dito, hindi natin usually ginagalaw si app.component. So, technically, siya lang yung holder ng router outlet. So, dito yung pinaka-main routes. So, ang three holy grail for Angular folders is una, core, then folder, shared, then modules. So, these three folders, this is the three folders that we call the three holy grail. So, actually, ito ginagamit to for mostly enterprise apps because ginagawa to for lazy loading applications. Kasi hihiwalay-hiwalay natin yung modules. So, ayun, papakita ko rin kung paano ba natin mahiwa-hiwalay architecturally or ano ba dapat yung modules, ano dapat yung mga components. So, first, sa core, ano ba yung mga nilalagay sa core? So, usually, ang mga nilalagay dito is services. Ito yung mga login service, authentication service. So, ito yung parang mga ginagamit na service widely throughout the app. Then, next is the interceptors. Interceptors are like sila yung parang middleman dun sa mga endpoints mo. So for example, kailangan mo ng authentication headers dun sa mga endpoints mo. Siyempre hindi naman natin iisa-isahin yun for the headers. We will create our own interceptor to place all the headers for each endpoints that the Angular is calling. Then sa core, meron din dito guards. So actually, we will not tackle mostly dito guard and interceptors, but I'll just give you an idea. So guards is if we are allowed to visit a particular route. So dalawa yan, can activate guard and can deactivate guard. So can activate from the name itself if we are allowed to visit the app. Then at the same time, can deactivate if we are on that particular route and we tried to navigate away from that route. So, parang isasabihin niya ba kung pwede ka ba nag-navigate away. So, usually, ito yung mga ginagamit for forms. If meron tayong changes sa forms, so yan, pwede tayong gumamit ng can deactivate route. Then, so, ayun lang yung mga basic sa core. Then, for modules, ito yung dito natin ilalagay lahat ng modules and components natin na gagamitin natin throughout the app. So, mamaya ako gagawin to. So, since ito yung parang pinaka-center natin, the next is shared. So, sa shared, actually, marami ring concepts to. So, usually, ang nilalagay namin dito is models. So, kasama na dito yung mga interface and class na ginagamit natin kay Angular. So, I forgot to mention, Angular is OOP, partly OOP because it has the concept of objects. So, but not all, hindi lahat ng 3 pillars ng OOP meron siya. So, next is, actually, dito pwede rin tayo maglagay ng components. So, mga shared components. So, ano ba yung mga shared components? For example, dito sa app natin, syempre yung navbar natin, pwede naman siya shared throughout the component. So, pwede natin siya ma-consider na shared component. At the same time, yung footer, so makikita naman natin lagi siya sa application. So, pwede natin yan ma-consider as shared component. Actually, depende rin yan. Minsan, yung mga ganyang shared na components, nilalagay din namin sa core. So, but either way naman, para sa akin, okay lang naman kahit sino. Then, next, so kung may bootstrap kayo na tab module or whatever, mga tabs, actually si bootstrap for Angular is considered also modules. So nilalagay din namin siya dito. So kung meron tayong mga components like forms ni bootstrap, tabs, dropdowns, whatever. So nandito yan, magkakaroon ng sariling module si shared. So yun. So actually ito muna yung papakita ko. So yun, our Angular application is currently running. So let's go. Let's proceed. So ang default for Angular is port 4200. Oops. Sino yung nirun ko? Yan. So, localhost 4200. So, makita natin dito sa page. So, yan. Ito yung current default homepage ni Angular application. So, yung sinasabi ko kanina, meron na siyang link for, meron na siyang for like augury sa testing. Then, meron ng link for Angular blog. So, yun. Kung sabi ko rin kanina, add PWA support. So, meron na siyang nilagay doon. So, parang talagang sinusupport na nila si Progressive Web App. Sabi nila, pinrovide naman nila. So, why not make your Angular a Progressive Web App na sobrang dali lang. So, yan. So, next thing we should do is delete that. So, hot reload si Angular. So, once we've saved the code, yan, mawawala na siya. So, try lang natin magsulat. And so, makita natin once na-save tayo, nagko-recompile din yung code natin. So, okay, let's move on. So, kailangan natin gayahin is this website. So, isa-isahin natin. So, first, let's make it section by section. So, first, the navbar, then this one. Let's call this the hero section. Then, siguro ito, features? No, sorry. Ano to? Services na lang. Then, YS section. So, ayan, makita natin may parang play button. So, sana magawa natin tong animation. Then, features, and may konting SVG or image. Then, the footer. So, yun. So, pag gumagawa tayo ng Angular app, since ito naman is one page. So, itong about us is wala. Parang sample lang. So, this is just a one-page application. So, ang unang isipin natin is how can we make this, how can we divide this application into components? So, yun nga. Itong isang buong page na to, we consider this as one component. So, ito yun, magkakaroon siya ng route. So, let's call this a home route. Then, under this home route, meron siya mga components. So, hatihitiin natin. So, ang first component na nakikita natin, pwede is the navbar itself. So, ito yung una nating gagawin. Then, the next component is this hero section. So, second na component yan. Then, third component is this services component. But if you will analyze the services component, mapapansin natin, pwede pa natin siyang i-divide into several components. So, si services, meron din siyang components inside. So, ito yung mga cards. Ito yung cards component. So, pwede natin ulit siya hiwa-hiwalayin. The next is the YS. This is the YS component or the advertisement component. So, posible din, pwede natin hiwa-hiwalayin yan. Itong part na to, pwede rin siyang component, then another component. Itong dalawa. Then, features, yan, same. Features component, one component yan. Then, inside, makikita natin, meron din siyang mga possible na candidate for components, which is this part, then this part, then this part. So, mas maganda, mas granularize yung component nyo, mas okay yun. Kasi, mas marireuse natin yung mga code from different components. Kasi kung makikita nyo, like this one, di ba, pare-parehas lang naman sila ng layout eh. So, most likely, pare-parehas lang yan ang code. So, why not just make it a component-based? So, next, the footer. Yan. So, footer is basically shared kasi kung maraming pages to, pag dumami yung pages ng application na to, possible or most likely naman, yung footer is present from in different pages of this application. Yeah. So let's start na. First thing we need to do is create a module. So new folder tayo. So home. So inside the home, we can create the module. So ang gagawin natin dito is lazy loading. So we will create a simple module, a home module. So if naalala niyo yung command, so nggm, then the name of the module. So dito, since ang mangyayari dito sa command na to is ilalagay niya yan mismo dito sa app. So ang gusto natin yung path. So pwede nating ilagay na path. So ng, nakaya ko ng konti since kita, yan. So we're just going to use the path. So nggm. Then so the path is modules. Then home. So minsan wala tayong tiwala sa sarili natin if this is the right path. So we can use just dry run. So what is dry run? So it will not create the modules instantly. So papacheck niya lang if the path is correct. So makita natin dito niya i-create yan. Since tama naman, source app module. So we can remove the dry run flag. There. So makita natin, meron na tayong home module. So this is we have created another module na gagawa natin ng routes. So under this home, gagawa tayo ng folder na pages, then components. So baka pala for other viewers, baka tinatanong nyo, ano ba yung ibang mas madaling way para mag-create ng components, modules, kasi it's stressful na maalala mo lahat ng mga commands. So meron din naman pinoprovide si VS Code for that one. So sa extensions, makikita nyo, may Angular schematics. So ito yung mga gamit ko if you're planning to become an Angular developer. So ito yung gamit kong mga extensions na makakatulong. So Angular snippets, Angular files, Angular 8 actually, alam ko may bago na. So ito pala yun, Angular snippets version 9. So yun, it will help you through, it's like an intelligence na siya yung magpe-predict kung ano yung mga codes or function under that dependency. Then, Angular schematics, ito, sobrang maganda rin to. Yun. Actually, ito yung top 2. Yung Angular schematics, actually, yung ginagawa niya. So, pag nag-right-click ka, for example, dito sa components, ayan, makikita na natin meron na siya. Generate component, directive module. So, you don't need to type the command itself to create the components, modules, services, and other Angular components. So, yun. Makita natin dyan. So, sige. Pero ngayon, gamit tayo ng command. Para medyo masanay tayo since others are starting din. So, next is we need to create, for pages, makita na, alam natin na yun, meron tayong homepage, which is this whole page for PWA Pilipinas. So, gagawa tayo ng home container. So, as I said, si page is another type of component. So, we will create a component called home container. So, under modules, then home, pages, then home container. So, if hindi rin kayo tiwala, you can just use the dry run. So there, nakikita nyo kung tama. Source app, modules, home, pages, home container. So since tama naman, then makikita nyo rin, meron din siyang update na home module. So alam niya kung saan i-import or i-declare yung component natin. So smart na rin si Angular. So saan niya i-import yung module na, yung component rather na kinikreate natin. So let's create the component. So mapapansin nyo, in the home module part, so automatic declared na si home container component, which is a good thing because we don't need that kasi possible na pwede natin makalimutan. Then it will cause errors. So this is the home container component. So this is the page. So our goal is if we load the app, so we should render this as the default page, the home container. So what we need to do is create the routes. So in order to create the routes, let's create the path under app routing module. So we want to redirect this to home and path match full. Then under, so gagawa tayo, we need to create a path named home. Then we're not gonna there are two ways to load. First is not the first is that we're going to need to do is the lazy loading part. So instead of loading the component itself, we will load the home module. So this is lazy loading. Why? Because yung home module, we're not directly loading it in the app module. So maloload lang yung home module if we try to visit this route. So what we're going to do is call the home module. So modules app modules home then so ang import it's a kind of promise. So then home module. So that's one way to create a path in Angular application. So if we visit this route, the path, it will redirect to home for the home for this home path. Then it will load the module home module. So let's go back to home module. So this part we need to achieve that we need to achieve here that it should load the home container component as the base route. So what we're going to do is we need to create another route for home modules. So gamit na lang tayo dito ng Angular schematics. So we will generate a route. So let's call this home. So yeah, as you can see that it created a home routes router module. So the home routes this one. So excuse me. Kailangan natin siya i-import sa home module. So for that one, then kailangan natin i-declare si home container component as the base route. So check natin. Ayan. So makikita natin, wala pang lumalabas, pero so pag binisit natin yung localhost 100 which is our base route, so makita natin nagre-redirect na siya sa home. So ang problem dito is wala pang lumalabas dun sa app. So dapat ang nakikita na natin dito is itong nakasulat kay home, which is home container works. So ano yung kailangan natin gawin? So makita natin sa app component, wala siya nung app router outlet which is parang dito nag-re-render si routing. So kailangan natin idagdag router outlet. So So yan. So makikita natin dun sa Angular app natin. Redirect na niya tayo sa home container component. So yan, we have successfully created our routes by redirecting our application in the home container. So ito na yung pinaka-base component natin. So dito natin i-render lahat ng gagawin nating components. So let's go back. Let's create now the navbar for the application. So yan. Let's create this one. Yeah. So sa navbar, sabi ko nga, pwede siya sa core, pwede siya sa shared. So I'll just place it here in the shared. So let's create the generate component. But for that, let's create the module for the shared. So since shared siya, so dapat meron din siyang sariling module. nggm shared. Shared. There. So, oops, hindi siya naka-flat. Forgot that. Let's just move it. Yeah. So, create a component. So, let's call this navbar. There. So, under navbar, so ilalagay natin siya sa shared module. So, navbar then this should be exported. So, gagamitin natin si navbar. So, pag nag-import tayo ng shared module, dapat na-export si navbar in order for other modules to access this component. So, this one, it's shared. Punta tayo sa app. So, let's try using the imports here. Then, since makikita naman natin siya sa lahat ng page, so we'll just put it here. So, dito natin ipapasok yung concept ni selectors ni Angular. So, makikita natin dito sa shared, balikan natin si navbar. So, nung generate natin, meron siyang selector na app navbar. So, in order for us to use the app navbar component, so we'll just use the selectors. So, makita natin dito sa component. Yeah. So, sa app navbar, so try natin gamitin. Then, let's try. So, there's our navbar. So, pakita ko lang, try natin i-error yung application. So, tanggalin natin si shared module. Ayan. So, makikita natin, nag-error na siya. If app navbar is an Angular component, so then verify it's a part of this module. So, because we haven't imported the shared module. So, yun yung context nila. So, kailangan import nyo yung module na nag-hold nung component para makilala niya yung component. So, that's the app navbar. So, let's code the app number, simple HTML. So, type is a header. Try natin lagyan ng header. So, let's make this a fixed stop. Then, div class container. And div class the logo float left. And So each one. So check natin yung app. Right. Then let's try PWA Pilipinas. So I think that's okay. Then menu. So try. Then yeah. Let's try B and then B LG block. Then home. Let's just remove the home. Leave class. Then, oops, nakalagay sa loob to. So let's run again. So this is our current code. So hindi pa to gagana kasi wala pa tayong bootstrap. So yeah, forgot to mention how to install bootstrap. So let's try installing it. So gagamit tayo ng bootstrap ngayon. So the command here is just ngadd. So ngadd at ngbootstrap/ngbootstrap. So simple as that. So, ang gagawin nitong command na to for ngadd at ngbootstrap, so it will install all the packages or the dependencies for bootstrap. So, after that, wala na. So, siya na bahala din. For the code, I think medyo sumobra na tayo sa oras. So, I'll just check out my ginawang code. So, I'll copy it, then i-convert na lang natin sa components. So, yan. So, try natin. I'll open my source code for the app. So, actually, medyo matagal tong coding session. So, for example, na-code na natin yung CSS for the navbar. I'll just copy-paste the code I made. So, yan. Then, for the HTML, open ko na rin. So there, our bootstrap is installed. So makikita natin ano yung mga in-update niya. So in-update niya yung app.module natin. So check natin kung ano yung in-update niya. So yun, nag-import siya ng NGB module. So ito yun. Then in-update niya rin yung styles.css natin. So nag-import siya nung Bootstrap CSS. So ito yung mga stylings. Then for polyfills, ano yung mga in-update niya? So ito yun yung Angular localized init. So yun yung dinagdag niya. So, actually, copy na lang natin yung code. So, papakita ko na lang yung ibang concepts. So, i-granulize na lang natin siya into components. So, navbar. So, let's try this one. Running it again. So, yan. Meron na tayong navbar. So, next is we create the what do you call this one? Oops. Let's restart. It's compatible with IV. So next thing we need to do is create the component for the hero section. So new folder, generate component. So hero section. So this one. So the hero section works. So this hero section part, ilagay natin siya sa home container. So it should be the app hero section. That's the selector of the component. So check natin kung successfully. Sorry about that. Dapat mali. Let's move this one to the components. So under components, there. Check natin baka na import, no? So kailangan natin siyang i-import sa i-declare rather. Mali. So we will have the hero section. Section works. So copy ko na lang ulit yung code. Oops. Let's copy natin yung mga assets. So So, ito yung mga assets na gagamitin natin for the features. So, technically, nilalagay lang natin siya under ng assets folder. Check natin itong assets kung tama. hero. So there, we have the hero section. So next scene is this one. Let's create another component. We call this the services section. So this is services section. Copy natin yung code. Pero i-granularize natin siya into another components. So, okay, nakalimutan natin i-declare. Component. So, gagamitin natin si app services here. So, makita natin, nandito na yung services. For the services, later, we will granularize this in another component. So, makikita natin, may mga boilerplate codes like this icon box link. So, technically, pare-parehos lang sila. So, pwede nating i-component pa yan. So, we can make cards. Actually, any name, but siguro pangalanan lang natin siya component cards. So, service items rather. Service card item. So, under this one, so pwede natin ilagay ito, icon box, sa part na to. Or actually, yeah, pwede na to. Let's try this one. Then, for home module, we will transfer the code here. So this one, serve cards, items, yeah. So transferred na. Then, we will use the item. So comment out natin to. So app service card item. So slipan natin yung CSS. Icon box. problem CSS. So, paste. Kung malilesen natin yung boilerplate codes by using that one, then may kulang pa tayong na transfer services. Yep, this one. Services. Isayin natin. Ang lahat ata yun. Yeah, I think it's all needs all services. Yeah, sorry. Services. It's working. So, yeah. There, so we have the service card items. Then next, let's go to the why us. What's the next feature is so skip na lang natin tong why us. So let's go to feature section. Features. So let's copy the code. So don't forget to import the feature section component. Oh, mali yung naming, but let's just stick to that one. Then app. So sorry for the naming, but this should be the app feature section. So this one, that's the one. Then lastly, the footer. So as I have mentioned earlier, footer should be available to all components, to all pages rather. So might as well place the footer under the shared. So footer. So let's copy the code. There. So in order for us to use the footer, so let's go back to the for the shared component. So let's export it. Then let's go back to the app, the component. So app footer. So we can see now we have also the footer for the page. So nakita natin hindi maayos pala yung sa list. Siguro kulang ako ng CSS. For this one, so gusto natin dito maging dynamic yung data. So nangyari dito kasi in-hard code muna natin. So what we're going to do is dito natin ma-apply yung input tsaka output. So ang possible na data dito na dynamic is the title. So let's place here title, then copy na lang natin ito. Description. So this is called interpolation. So ibabind natin yung data na ipapasa. So dito sa service card item component, import ba? Yeah. So title. So or let's just place it as string. Then another input, description, so magkakaroon na si service card ng attributes which is title and description. So under ng services section, so kung gusto natin magpasa ng value, so let's just write it title, title, then siguro lagyan natin sa services that item zero that title. Then for the description, so copy lang natin to. So copy paste item, then change one. So for example, meron tayong services or backend, but this one hard code ko na lang yung mga data. So ang bind natin na variable or value is services. So we will create a services array, then consists of the title, so title 1, then description. So let's just copy some description here. So that one, for example, then title 2. Copy paste na lang. Title 2, then title 3. There. So we can see in our app. So makita natin, gumagamit siya. Oh, may mali. Wait lang. Description. Description. Oh, mali. Services. There. So, makita natin, ginawa nating component-based si service card item. Sorry, hindi ko naayos na masyado yung CSS. So, medyo we're running out of time for that one. So, yan. Pero makita natin na si service card is yung title nanggagaling na dun sa parent component niya. So, this is, I forgot to mention this earlier. No? So, meron tayong concept kay Angular na smart DOM components. So technically, itong mga under ng components folder na to is just a DOM component, meaning taga-display lang sila. So yung pages, so ito yung, si pages talaga yung kapag may nare-retrieve tayong data from database, siya yung technically na pabato ng data to the DOM components. So technically siya yung may capability na makipag-usap sa back-end application. So dito for demo purposes only, nilagay ko lang dito yung data. Let's just imagine na itong services na data to is pinasa ni home container papunta kay service section. Then pinapasa ni services section papunta kay service card item. So that's basically it, how to use the Angular component communication. So that's it. So try natin siguro i-convert na to into a progressive web app. So ayusin lang natin ng onti yung navbar. Tanggalin na lang natin yung home kasi since parang hindi naman siya hindi siya necessary for this one since it's just one page. Ayan, siguro gusto na natin makita kung paano natin gagawin itong Angular progressive web app. So for this one, let's just stop the application for a while. So umaalala nyo, yung paano mag-create ng Angular PWA, sobrang dali lang. So let's just execute the command Angular PWA. Then it will scaffold all the needed libraries and dependencies for this application. So let's just wait for this to finish. So for this one, habang in-scaffold ni Angular PWA yung mga need application. So we will also install. So we will also proceed now to the web push, which is the SWPush. So we will use Angular service workers to enable push notifications in the app in our Angular application. So dito, let's just use this button, the subscribe button. So kapag nag-click si user, magkakaroon ng notifications from our browser. So let's okay, yan, nag-update na siya. So paano tayo magkaroon ng web push dun sa ating local machine? So we just need to command this one. So npm install web-push-g. So -g meaning global. So mag-install siya ng environment variable. So magkakaroon kayo ng bagong command dun sa CLI nyo. Then we need to generate vapid keys. So para saan tong vapid keys? Generate vapid keys. So this is the one that will allow our backend application to be recognized by our front end na parang ina-allow natin siya na mag-send ng notifications pabalik. So if we generate something like this one, kulang ng dash. Yan. So makita natin may public key siya na ibibigay, then private key. So we will use that later. So check natin yung installation kung okay na. Yan, okay na. So yan, simply as that, progressive web app na yung Angular natin. So check, pero ayun nga, progressive web app, pero check din natin kung ano yung mga binigay niya, ano yung mga in-scaffold niya dun sa application natin. So, una, is Angular JSON, iniba niya. Ano yung mga iniba niyang parts dito? So, ito, assets. So, kasi, nagdagdag siya ng dalawang file. So, manifest.webmanifest, which I'll explain later. Then, yun. Meron din tayo ngswconfig.json. So, technically, yun lang. Next, package.json. Siyempre, nagdagdag tayo ng PWA. So, makita natin dito somewhere. Excuse me. Mag-install siya ng service worker. So, service worker are the main stars of progressive web apps. So, papakita ko kayo mamaya pag na-deploy natin kay Firebase. So, next, app.module. So, makita natin, nagdagdag siya ng service worker module. So, running your application locally, hindi talaga gagana. Hindi nyo matetest si Angular PWA. So, you need another separate HTTP server. So, pwede natin i-run kayo mamaya. So, para makita nyo. Para matest natin locally si service worker if nagwo-work pa talaga. So itong .register, so i-register niya yung NGSW worker JS, which is it will enable the service worker for Angular application. Then index.html. So dito, ayan, makikita nyo lang may ano tayo, link for the manifest.web manifest. So ano ba yung manifest web manifest na yan? So ito lang yung icons kasi pag nag-add home kapag dinownload natin yung Angular application natin by yun, which is PWA enabled. So ito yung icons na gagamitin niya if dinownload natin. So ang default is an Angular icon. So yan yung default natin. Then, NGSW config. So, ito yung, simply, ito hindi naman mahalos ginagalaw kasi parang default na to. So, ito yung mga parang kinacache ni service worker, which is yung assets, technically. Yan. So, ito yung mga paths. So, ito yung mga files. So, .js files, CSS files. So, ito yung kinacache ni service workers. So, technically, that's it. So, let's try running our Angular PWA locally. So, before we proceed to the web push pala, ayan, try muna natin i-run. So, dito, paano natin i-run? So, hindi gagana dito si npm run start or NGS. So, hindi kasi mag-enable si PWA dyan. So, ang kailangan natin una is npm install tayo, -g, HTTP server. So, at dito natin i-run si Angular app. So, I have HTTP server already in my machine, so no need to install. Then, next, if you have successfully installed the application, so the HTTP server, so -p, the port for 200, -c, -1, then list. Yeah, forgot to build. So, i-build natin si Angular. Limutan natin yun. So, ng build. So, to build the Angular, ng build --prod. So, let's wait for the application to build. So, if this is successful, makikita natin na magkakaroon siya ng dist folder or what it's this because for it's called it's a shortcut for distribution. So, hintayin natin yung build. Then, to run the Angular application under HTTP server, syempre dapat alam niyo yung project name niyo. So, para makita niyo yan, ito yan, PWA Angular demo or nasa package at JSON. PWA Angular demo. So now it's 92% before producing the dist folder. Then after this, we will run it using HTTP server. Oh, ayan. So makikita natin sa footer, may code na. So kapag nang-build, smart si Angular, makikita niya, wala yung function na yun. So sa HTML. So right now, tanggalin muna natin. So let's build again. So let's wait for another around 2 minutes. So to reduce the side effects in production. So nadedetect na rin ni Angular yung mga errors dun sa templates nyo, sa CSS. So that's one great example, which is yung submit notifications, hindi pa siya existing dun sa TS file ni footer. So mamaya natin gagawin yan. So, yan. Medyo matagal lang. So, while we are waiting, we're ready na rin natin itong footer since andito yung click button. So, yung subscribe. So, we will place the code for the web push here. So while we are waiting, so let's create na service na for the Vapid, for the web push. Actually nag-load na. So for the core, lagdag lang tayo sa service na web notification service. So this is the SWPush part. So web notifications. Kung makita natin dalawang file. So the spec is for the services, then the service.ts, that's the service itself. So, copy na lang natin tong public key na generate ko. Then, the base URL actually for demo purposes, dito ko lang siya ilalagay. Pero, ang magandang practice dyan is nasa environment.ts siya. So, but this one, let's just put this under. So, let's create a subscribe to notifications. So let's import the SWPush. Import SWPush from Angular. Service worker. So we will be using this one. So private HTTP. So we will use the HTTP client request. So oops, this is under Angular Common HTTP. So makikita natin kung hindi siya na import ng automatically kasi may kulang pa tayong import. HTTP client from Angular Common HTTP. Then, so the server, the SWPush. That one. Oops. Then, what we're going to do is we will request a subscription to SWPush. Then we will send the server public key. So this is the Vapid public key that we have generated earlier. Then CS request subscription is a kind of promise. So it will return a promise. So we can use the .net function. Then the sub. Then we will call a post request here for our backend. So let's write and let's send to server. So I've created a sample backend that can call a push notification. So that's localhost 5000 notification. So I'll run that later. So HTTP post. So we will be using our endpoint in our backend. Then notification. Params. Then we will now subscribe it here. So the parameters, this will be coming from the request subscription. So we will call, after successfully requesting a subscription to our SWPush, so we will call the the backend endpoint to push a notification. Oops, sorry. Send to server. There, yeah. So next thing, we have created our subscribe to notification service. So may nakalimutan tayong gawin dito. So we're using an HTTP client. We're using an HTTP request. So we need to import the HTTP client module in our modules in home module. So this one, HTTP client module. So it's from Angular Common. So we should not forget to import this HTTP client module to use HTTP request. So yun. Let's go back muna before we continue to web notification service. Let's try running our Angular PWA. So let's try if this will work. So nag-build na yung application natin. So we can see that this is the compiled version of our application. So /PWA Angular demo. So let's try running this one. So copy na lang. Oops. HTTP server port for 200-C-1 this. So PWA Angular demo. So we're now running the compiled version instead of our code. So makita natin available on for 200, but we will not use that IP. So we're just going to use the local host. So makita natin, nag-request tayo. So it's now running. So makita natin dito, check natin kung PWA siya. So makita niyo dun sa browser, meron siyang plus. So meaning we can install now the app. So if we click the plus button, so instant natin, there, it's a desktop application. So it's now progressive web app. Good. So yeah, we have successfully created our Angular application that is a progressive, that at the same time it's also a progressive web app. So makita rin natin if how to know if the service workers are working. So if they're really workers, so makita natin dito sa application. So sa service worker, makita natin dapat meron na siyang naka-up. Oops, sorry, mali. Route. Yan. So makita natin, nag-work na yung service worker natin under localhost for 200. So meron na tayong ngsworker.js. So yeah, that's it. That's the Angular PWA application. So now we can proceed again to configuring our SWPush. So this subscribe to notifications. So that we're just focusing here on the front end. So actually this is basically it. So ang kailangan lang natin gawin is inject yung web notification service para matawag nung button. So ang gusto natin mangyari dito is sa footer, kailangan natin matawag yung notification service. So let's try web notification service. So we will inject the web notification service here inside the footer. So submit notification then notification service that subscribe to notification, and basically that's it. So just let's bind the function in the input type button. So click submit notification. So we will run again our application. So we will build this one again. So while building this one, we will run our Node.js backend. So ito yung kinreate ko para mag-produce ng notifications pabalik sa client. So basically, I will not discuss this backend, but this is just a sample if na ginagamit niya yung vapid keys na generate natin para ma-allow kay frontend na mag-send ng data. So this one, so let's try to run it. And then natin. Then run start.
Na-disconnect siguro si Seiji. So wait lang natin siya ma-reconnect. So ayun. Ayun, kamusta naman kayo? Ako nag-i-enjoy ako sa kanyang code session.
Mukhang marami tayong natutunan ngayon, ha? Paano mag-develop ng Angular.
Foreign para sa akin.
Ayun. Wait lang natin siya.
Pero binabasa ko pa rin yung sa codes. Dami ko pang natutunan sa sa may mga ibang parte.
Ay guys,
Ayun.
sorry na wala.
Okay lang,
Ayan.
okay
So,
lang. Sige.
Tagalan ng session natin. Ang dami pang i-discuss. Ayan. So, I'll continue, no? So, yeah. Okay naman yung code, screen. Hindi naman malabo or anything.
Di siya ngayon hindi naka-present or share yung screen.
Ayun, nawala. So, ang dami kong diniscuss pero yung part na ginawa siyang PWA ang bilis eh.
Isang command lang yun eh.
Isang command lang pero ang lala ng yung Angular app kasi na part din yung malala. Ayan. So, continue tayo dun. So, asa na tayo? Ayan. Binild ko ulit yung application dito. So, kasi may dinagdag ako. Then, ito yung sa SWPush. So, ano tayo? Flashback. Yan. Ito yung ginawa kong web notification service. So, subscribe to notifications. So, technically, ulit ang ginagawa nito is para mag-request siya ng subscription sa SWPush. Then, we will use the vapid public key that we have generated earlier using WebPush. Then, after that, it will send the parameters to the backend that I've created. So, ito yung backend. Run ko. So, running to in Node.js. Yan. So, it's running. So, we can see. So, we have the local host, 5,000 notifications endpoint running. So, check natin. Actually, kailangan ko palang i-share yung isang screen ko kasi doon nag-a-appear yung notifications. So, transfer ko in a while. Pero, yan. Pakita muna natin na nag-run. May one part pa pala tayo, which is yung deploying ng Firebase, pero madali na yun. Then papakita ko rin sa mobile kung mag-run nga ba talaga si Angular PWA. Yan. So, try natin. Yeah, it takes a while to build the Angular app. So, visit na natin kagad. Yan, makikita natin actually naka-PWA siya, di ba? So, hindi siya nagra-run. Walang nagra-run na Angular application. Nagbi-build tayo currently, pero na-visit pa rin natin. Kasi parang kinonsider natin siya as offline. So, na-visit pa na natin yung progressive web app ni Angular. So, accessible pa rin siya. So, yay PWA for that one. So, talagang dito natin mapapatunayan na once your application is progressive, sobrang accessible niya. And so, let's run this one. There. So, pakita ko na lang din yung naka-deploy. So, saan ba yan? My PWA. Forgot the name. Try to. So, share ko yung isang screen ko. Lipat ako. Kasi nandun yung notifications. Try ko nga. Ayan. Ito, makita natin kapag nag-send tayo ng subscribe. So, itong subscribe is tinatawag niya tong part na to. Subscribe to notification. So, request subscription. So, before we continue to we proceed, so si Chrome or si Firefox mag-a-ask yan. So, will you allow the web app to send notifications? So, allow natin. Siyempre. Then, next, let's try to send. Yun, nagkaroon na notifications. Hindi nyo kita kasi sa kabila ko. So, try natin i-share yung sa akong screen. Let's try sharing this one. Yan. So, try ko ulit mag-trigger. So, trigger natin. Subscribe. There. That's the notification. So, yay. Meron na tayo SWPush notification. So, actually, ito, for front-end lang yung pinakita ko. Pero, in order for this one to work, kailangan nyo ng backend na working backend na nag-push pabalik ng notifications. Pero, kunyari, wala pa tayong backend, so hindi tayo technically full stack developer. So, paano ba natin matetest kung gumagana nga ba yung notifications na yan? So, simple lang. Access natin si application. Then, next, puntahan natin si service worker. So, makikita natin dito, check natin tong service worker na to. Then, pakita ko na lang sa Chrome. Mas madali actually. Mas familiar ako. Ayan. So, punta natin dito. Sa application. So, service worker din. Makikita nyo dito. Pwede kayo magdagdag ng, pwede kayo maglagay dito ng sample values. And actually, ito yung sinesend ni backend. So, this one. So, pag pinush nyo yan, pag kinilik nyo yan, mag-send yan notification. So, technically, you don't need backend to test your data. So, that's it. Yeah. So, we have created successfully our PWA Angular app that is a progressive web app. So, I think this is the last part. So, let's try to deploy this one into our Firebase. So, madali na to. So, let's go back to my other screen. Yan. So, actually, ano bang kailangan natin para ma-deploy yung PWA application natin? So, simple lang. Una, kailangan natin syempre ng Firebase na account. So, tingnan natin dito. So, dito sa Firebase, Google Firebase. So, actually, yung una kong plan is Hero. Naisip ko, let's make it Google, full blast Google. So actually, tsaka mas madali ito si Firebase. Si Hiroko kasi alam ko nagkakaproblema nakalimutan ko yun, nagkakaproblema si Hiroko sa push notifications because of the NGSW worker path. So dito, get started tayo. So let's try to deploy this one. So ang kailangan natin gawin, let's just add a project. So example, my awesome PWA. So makita natin nag-generate siya ng parang sample na identifier. So this is automatic kasi ito yung gagamitin natin for hosting. So let's just continue, then select an account. So this is my account. So technically we need a Google account. So let's just wait for the resources. So going back tayo dun sa demo. Yan. So dito, magkakaroon tayo ulit ng bagong command. So which is Firebase. So magkakaroon tayo ng CLI. So wait natin yung resources before adding that. So yeah. Our project is ready, then let's just continue. Then for this one, we can see na si Firebase, maraming ino-offer yan. So, meron din siyang authentication, may database. Si database, pag in-explore niya yan, para siyang MongoDB. So, it's NoSQL database. Meron na silang mga bago ngayon. It's real-time database. So, actually, yung iba, hindi na ako familiar. Hindi na ako nakakapag-Firebase masyado. Pero ang usually nagagamit ko dito is yan, yung real-time database. Then the Cloud Firestore. Then storage din, meron din sila niyan. So if you're familiar with Azure File Storage, so same as that. So ganun din yung ino-offer nila. So itong hosting, ito yung gagamitin natin. So yan, kung hindi kayo familiar, kung medyo nahihirapan kayo pag-host, meron naman silang paano gamitin. Get started. So yan. In order for us to install the CLI for Firebase, we just need to install this one. I'll stop the backend. So for this one, so let's just command the npm install global Firebase tools. So that's the CLI itself. So I have already in my machine. So next tayo. So ito lang yung kailangan natin, Firebase login. So Firebase login. So, ilalagin na tayo sa local. So, after installing the Firebase tool, so, login tayo. Actually, nakalagin na ako. So, I'll just show you how ano yung mga ilalagay niya. So, hintayin lang natin. Then, after, habang hinihintay natin, so discuss ko na rin. So, actually, magpupull lang yan din sa Google. Ilalagin. So, it's like Heroku also. Then, after that, we will initiate our project to be able to be hosted to Firebase. So, ano yung command? Simple lang. Firebase init. So, this is the one. So, ang tagal yung login. I think this is because of my internet. So, try natin execute. So, yan, hindi na pala pwede. So, already login na ako as my email. So, let's try executing the init. So, we will initialize this Angular demo as an Firebase app. So, makita natin, lalabas na yung effort ni Firebase na isulat yung pangalan nila. So, ready to proceed? Yes. So, what we're going to choose here is the hosting. So, this is the one that we're going to use to deploy our app. Oops. Sorry. Mali. Init again. Ano mo ito ko? Spacebar. There. Then, you should use the so kung nakita tayo kanina, so that's the My Awesome PWA or PWA. So use an existing project. So this is the My Awesome PWA. So we will be using that one. So what do you want to use as your public directory? I think this is just public. Then configure single relight. Yes. Okay. So Firebase initialization complete. So makikita natin parang mag-create siya ng dalawang files, which is the Firebase JSON. So technically we're not going to change anything about it, but this is just the configuration. So node modules, so makikita niya kung nasaan yung mga dependencies, then the Firebase, the JSON, then the default. This is just the name. So the next is the Firebase deploy. So we don't need this one. So this one, the Firebase deploy. So simple lang. You just need to command it again. So deploying to My Awesome PWA. Then yeah, you'll just have to wait for the Angular app to be deployed in your application. So yeah, that's basically it. So check natin yung application natin if deployed nga ba. So check natin yung app natin. So My Awesome PWA. So makita natin kanina walang laman to. So kung check natin to sa hosting. There. So makita natin ito yung default web app natin. Oh yeah, open hosting. Oh, hindi nag-deploy. Let's try web app. A problem is the deployment. So let's try again. So let's check the settings. Baka nagkamali lang tayo. Firebase. Yeah, actually that's the one. So my bad. Ang nangyari kanina dun sa public, dapat pala is ang ilalagay nyo, this, then the name of your application. So, kung naalala nyo kanina, nagtanong siya, nag-enter lang ako. So, my bad. Then, let's try to deploy again. So, ito kasi yung nabibuild nating folder. So, dito siya magbe-base dun sa hosting. So, let's try again. Oops, nakakash ata. So, technically, dapat okay na yun. Let's just try the other one. Ayaw. So let's try to initialize na lang again. No. Rbase deploy. Kailangan natin clear yung cache. Baka nagka-cache lang. There. So let's try again. There. Yan. Na-deploy na natin successfully. So, yun. Nagkamali lang tayo dun sa dist. So, initialize ko ulit. So, if we want to recap, ano yung ginawa kong fix. So, yan. Nag-initialize ulit ako. Then, change the dist to PWA Angular Demo. Then, rewrite all URLs to index. So, yes. Then, if it asked you if overwrite the index.html, so say no because ma-overwrite yung sa Angular index.html natin. Then, yan. Let's just deploy the Angular. Then, that's it. We have deployed our Angular PWA in Firebase. So, ito, meron na tayong link for Angular application. So, that's from hero to zero. So, from zero, Angular developer. So, naging deploy natin siya sa Firebase. So, pakita ko lang. So, kung ng onte dito sa mobile app ko, kung PWA nga ba, ano ba talaga yung power ni PWA. So, try natin. I-project ko yung mobile ko. So, yun, makikita rin natin dito pala. May install siya na PWA Angular Demo. So, since naka-progressive web app na siya. So, try natin. Project ko yung application ko. So, Visor. So, this is my mobile device. Try natin. Fine. There. So, try natin i-visit yung application sa mobile device. Yan. So, makikita natin. Let's go to Chrome. Oops. Oh, nawala. Naglolo ko. Lolo ko si Visor. Let's open the device. Then and there. So we have opened the app in na mobile. So, kung makita natin, if it's a progressive web app, so makita natin nag-project si Google automatically na we can add the application to our home screen. So, let's add. So, makita natin dito. So, let's just add here. Yan. So, meron na. So, let's visit. So, yung nakikita natin na icon, so galing yan from manifest. So, if you want to change that into your customized icon, so, lalagay nyo lang yan sa manifest.web manifest. So, then if you click, so yeah, it behaves like a mobile app, a native mobile app na. And yeah, that's it. So, from 0 to 0, we have created our Angular application, then deployed it to Firebase.
Yes. Ayun. So,
Ayos.
kung meron tayong
So, yeah.
questions, so, ayun. Ito yung first one. Would it be possible to use ng-serve and defining proxy configuration for PWA?
Yes. Actually, meron
I'm-
silang,
If I'm using Express daw.
Express.js. Yes, actually for progressive web apps proxy, gagamitin nila siya using dun sa ng-serve. So, meron silang mga pinrovide na what do you call this, parameters. So, yung parang ginagamit ko kanina na dash support. So, kung pwede nyo rin, pwede nyo rin kayong gumamit ng HTTP server. So, para makapag-define kayo ng proxy.
Ayun. So, meron pa tayong question. So, may Git repo ba to? Yung ginawa mo?
Yeah. Actually, meron na. Yeah, hinanda ko yan. Marami na magtatanong. Eto. I-send ko mamaya yung link. Pero, share ko ulit yung screen ko.
Sige.
So, for GitHub, meron ako actually nandito lahat ng tutorials ko. So, punta lang kayo dito sa mga pangalan na. May PWA ata. PWA, yeah, there. So, it's CGV13/PWA SWPush Angular demo. So, I'll comment na lang this later in our live stream. So, pwede nyong i-visit yan. And so, pag gusto nyo pa ako i-follow other than this topic, yan, CGV13.
Ayun. So, meron pa tayong question from mga nag-register sa atin. So, ito yung first one. So, what is the difference between Angular tsaka React Redux.js? So,
Yeah.
sabi ni Macroniel.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for the question. So, actually, parehas lang silang front-end framework. So, si Angular, meron din siyang Redux. Pero hindi Redux yung tawag sa kanya. Bits lang yung Redux. Bits lang sa Redux pattern. So, yun yung NGX is NGRX. May pagkakaiba, pero same flow sila. So, ang difference between Angular and React, unang-una, iba yung gumawa sa kanila. Si Angular is from Google team, si React is from Facebook team. Pero, technically kasi, parehas lang sila ng purpose. So, parehas silang front-end framework, parehas silang component-based. Ang difference lang is, si Angular kasi, kung magde-develop ka, mas meron na siyang mga built-in libraries. So, maraming nagsasabi kasi si Angular parang hindi na talaga siya framework eh. Pag makita niyo dun sa pinakita ko sa package.json, meron na siyang routers, forms, meron na siyang HTTP, may sarili na siyang animation. Pag nag-develop kayo kay React, mas may freedom kayo mag-choose ng mga dependencies. So, pag gumamit kayo ng React CLI, ang mga i-install lang niya na dependencies is basically yung kailangan mo for React. So, yung React DOM, React, yung router kasi wala eh. Pwede, may iba-ibang libraries din available for NPM. So, yun talaga. Parang, ikaw bahala. So, pag kung ano yung mga ano man yung mga preference mo na library for React. Then, si Redux din kasi, ano siya, state management siya kay React. Pwedeng walang Redux kay React, pwede rin naman meron. So, depende rin yun sa preference mo. Si Angular, same din. Pwedeng may state management, pwedeng wala.
Ayun, may one last question tayo.
Sige.
Ayan. PWA plus AMP combination having JS framework like Angular, is it possible daw?
Actually, nabasa ko yan, yung accelerated mobile pages. Nabasa ko, hindi ko pa kasi masyado na-try si AMP. Pero, nabasa ko yan. Parang si AMP daw is mas maganda kung ano siya. Yung independent. Hindi, parang same lang din kasi sila ni PWA. So, mas maganda, parang hindi siya recommended na PWA plus AMP yung nabasa ko sa sa article.
Ayun. So, thank you, Seiji. So, meron ka bang
Ayan, so
promote or
thank you din pala PWA Pilipinas. So thank you din sa lahat ng mga nanonood. So sorry kung sobrang haba actually kasi hindi ko na-tackle lahat. Sobrang laki kasing scope talaga. Pero at least na discuss natin yung paano mag-create ng PWA or PWA app using Angular. So yun, thank you sa PWA for inviting me, for sharing my knowledge, and thank you din sa mga viewers na nagstay, na sana marami kayong natutunan. Then ayun, for plug, siguro join PWA Pilipinas. So magaganda yung mga events dito. So yan, support and dev communities. Then sa Angular PH, join din kayo. So marami din malulupit na developers doon and mentors. So meron din kami mga events na upcoming na yun. Stay tuned.
Ayun. So, thank you, Seiji, sa time.
Yeah, thank you din.
So, ayun, before natin i-end yung program, promote natin ulit yung mga ayan, so yung aming all-new PWA Pilipinas app, so yun, gawa to sa Angular. If gusto nyo ma-experience yung isang buong Angular na progressive web app, yan, install nyo lang yan sa phone nyo. Visit nyo lang yung app.pwapilipinas.org or yun, nasa Google Play din siya, search nyo lang yung PWA Pilipinas. Ayan. Tapos, Impact Hackathon, ang registration is until tomorrow. So, join na kayo kasi sayang. Malaki yung prices nito. So, ayan. Ito pa yung isa. If you're into Amazon Web Services, AWS kayo, like, gamit nyo yung products nila like yung Lambda, etc. Yun. Meron silang hackathon from August 10 to January 8. So, matagal-tagal to. Pero, siguro after nung siguro sobrang batak na kayo sa AWS. So ayan. Ayan. So kung gusto yung matuto mag AWS and stuff, pwede yung gawin tong parang learning activity. Yan. Tapos mananalo pa kayo. Ayan. Tapos eto naman next week, meron pa tayong another Sabado session. Pero ito naman, paano kaya gawing progressive web app using naman yung backend frameworks. This one, Django. So, if you're into Python, yan, meron tayo. Next week yan, August 22, ang speaker natin si Jovar Abrera, the developer sa College of Medicine sa UP Manila. So, ganun. Same place, same time. Yan. Ayun. So, ayun. Michael Lance, may i-add ka ba?
Ayun. Salamat sa iyo.
Yeah, thank you din, Michael. Thank you, Andre.
Napaka-informative nung ating session na yun.
Sana hindi sila inantok. Tagal.
Okay lang. Ay, mayroon akong gustong i-announce, mga hackathon natin. Mahilig ka bang mag-join ng mga hackathon?
Yeah, actually, dati, nung college, gawain namin yan.
Gawain namin.
Gawain namin hindi matulog sa mga hackathon.
At kumain.
At yun yung ano, yun
Gumawa
talaga.
ng mga freebies. Men, nabalita mo ba yung pinakamalaking hackathon sa buong universe?
Ano yun? Mukhang okay yan ah.
Yung inorganize ng NASA. Yan.
Oo.
Ang tawag dyan yung NASA's International Space Shuttle Challenge. Bale, itong darating na October 2 to 4, inaanyayahan ko kayong lahat na sumali sa prestigiosong competition ko ng NASA. Saan gagamit tayo ng mga space data upang tugunan ng mga makatotohanang suliranin natin sa daigdig at sa kalawakan. Ayun. Ano masasabi mo dyan, Seiji and Andre?
Ayos. Parang maganda yan.
Ah,
Hindi lang
diba?
pagkain.
Oo. Mga
experience
asteroid.
yan, yeah.
Mga asteroid.
Actually, magandang experience for hackathon, especially for developers. And based on my experience, marami rin kayong makikilala dyan. Then, at the same time, you'll get knowledge from them. So, yan. Yan, encourage ko rin kayo mag-learn. So, hindi lang for the food. Sigurado, yan. Pero, freebies, yung ating freebies.
Okay.
Pero, yun, experience-wise, okay yan. Maano nyo rin, may experience nyo rin yung magpa-panel kayo nang hindi kayo naliligo. May maraming yung mga panelists dyan na yung haharap kayo, walang ligo, walang tulog. Saya yun.
Yung anong masasabi mo naman sa paggamit ng space data para tugunan yung mga hamon dito sa daigdig at sa kalawakan? Masasabi mo
astig yun kasi makikita mo yung mga data nila. So at the same time, magkakaroon ka na experience ano ba talaga yung ginagawa nila sa loob ng NASA, paano nila na-manipulate. So siguro, may chance din tayo matuto dito ng data analytics. At the same time, baka nagkakaroon din sila ng machine learning. So yan, sobrang interesting tong tong hackathon na to. Marami ka talaga matututunan.
kasi yung nakarang mga entries natin, kagaya nung merong ginamit na isang citizen science data app ng NASA, para ipaalam sa mga mangingisda kung kailan sila pwedeng manghuli ng isda. Tapos may isa pang app na gumamit naman ng satellite data from Copernicus satellite and Landsat satellite para tignan kung kailan daw pwede mag-emerge yung dengue hotspot,
Ayun.
Nanalo sila ng buong hackathon. Tsaka itong lately, itong COVID-19, meron din pang COVID-19 na hackathon. Gumamit din sila ng space data. Kagaya nito, meron tayong nanalo din para tugunan naman para malaman yung economic impact ng COVID-19.
That's great actually. Parang ahead tayo, parang emerging technology. So it's like data analytics using space. So pwede natin ma-solve yung mga problems like that. At the same time, pwede natin yung katulad ng sinabi ni Sir Michael na alam nila kung kailan magkakaroon ng dengue. So we can use the space data to prevent possible solutions. So yan, data analytics. So maganda yan actually.
Ang maganda pa rito, nung nakaraan, itong COVID-19 challenge, kasama natin yung PWA Pilipinas din.
Ayos.
I mean, itong darating na hackathon, baka mas maganda rin kung may mga taga-angular naman na maging
pwede.
kagaya mo, di ba?
Front-end, kahit yung front-end, gawin nila angular. Actually, si angular, pwede ikabit na kay machine learning, like yan. So, for front-end, like mga, pwede nilang lagyan ng sa Google Analytics. So, yan. Pwede nilang magamit yung knowledge na yun.
Sige, basta, ma-invite ka namin na mentor, ha? Sige.
Sure, sir. Walang problema. Okay lang yan. Walang yan. Go na go.
Go na tayo sa PWA Pilipinas.
Sana ma-encourage yung mga fellow developers natin na mag-join. So, huwag kayong matakot kasi ang ganda opportunity to. Baka this is your big break.
Yun. So, siguro okay na tayo, no?
Yeah.
And so, Nakalimutan ko lang i-promote to. Tomorrow, ito yung ating buwan ng wika na talk tomorrow, yung kay Maclem, no? Yung panimula sa progressive web apps. So, if gusto nyo matuto ng progressive web apps, ito, another talk ulit to. So, ayun. 8 p.m. siya. Tapos, dito ulit. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. So, ayun. So, thank you, Seiji, sa
Thank
time.
you. Yeah.
For sure, maraming natuto talaga from scratch nung kung paano ba gumawa ng Angular to PWA. So, ayun. Sa mga tatanong pala if ever na may replay to, so yes, nasa Facebook yan, YouTube, pati sa PWA Pilipinas app, nandun din siya. So, ayun. So, ayun. Thank you ulit. So, bye na tayo. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.